Tape number 4. Here we go. Okay. So it is 1998. I've survived the worst of it. And we've got the ghosts out. Now we know I have a haunting. And I'm designing jewelry.
You've since not been to the basement again, or have you?
No, I've never been to the basement again because it's never been unlocked. But if the ghosts are in my the ghosts go any place they want. I figured the ghosts were down in the basement because there was nobody else any place in the building. Maybe, you know, I don't really know why. I didn't even think about going back to the basement. I wasn't afraid to go to the basement, but I know they're in my office. I just have a feeling. That feeling like you're being watched. When you're sitting someplace and you think you've seen something go behind you, and when you turn, there's nothing there, and it's actually, you're actually getting the feeling of like little children running around behind you playing. And actually, probably one of the biggest benefits these ghosts had was the fact that I am a father. Because I have learned, and one of the biggest benefits Ingrid had with me is that I was a father, because as a father you learn patience. For things that I would have normally clobbered people over the head, adults could not get away with me what children do, because I have patience with young people. They need to learn. If nobody teaches them, you can't expect them to be perfect. You have to teach them to be perfect. Anyway, so everything is the parent's fault if your kids are not perfect. So anyway, now it's 98, and I'm doing more and more jewelry design, which is I'm enjoying. Now, the Ford Motor Company decides that they are going to use as their only platform to build cars structural dynamics research software, SDRC, which just happens to be the software I design my jewelry on. And gee, wouldn't it be a great way to get some exposure if I could sort of set up some sort of a little scenario where the CEO of Structural Dynamics Research Corp and the CEO of Ford Motor Company, William Clay Ford, were to meet at my office, where not only are we the only person in the world running the software on a retail basis, real time for people to see and interact with, but we also carry the fishing rods for the company that this owns, and we could be casting fly rods on the roof of the building, back casting over Fifth Avenue and shooting to Madison with Matt Lauer from the NBC, who has just recently sent me a thank you letter for the hand-engraved Wheatley salmon fishing box that I had sent.
Why did you send me one?
We sent one to him and one to Katie Couric, because I wanted to get on the Today Show as one of those nice, neat little niche businesses.
Yeah.
And we were a nice, neat little niche, high-end business right across the street. So if we could have the CEO...
Remember that on though?
No. If we could have the CEO of SDRC, the CEO of Ford Motor Company, and Matt Lauer all playing on my roof with my computers and we'd make some news. And I had one of the guys from ABC wanted to Bill Evans, it might have been, wanted to broadcast the weather from my roof. While we were fly fishing, he wanted to do the weather thing. But I never really got the roof set up correctly to do either, and I wouldn't put on a half-assed production. So if I could have gotten them to come, I would have revamped the roof, and we would have done what I wanted. But I wasn't going to do it for some weatherman. And so I was waiting for Bill Ford to come, and actually I sent them out, and I sent them out to work, and I sent them out a pair of cufflinks. And I asked them to please, there were certain photographs I sent them. I knew they knew me because of my ads in the Wall Street Journal. Because it turns out everybody knew me. Anybody who was in business and read the Wall Street Journal knew me. Fine. So now I sent some information out to him, and I asked him to please return it. Because they happened to be a few of the only pictures, I didn't have duplicates and I didn't have the negatives, so I needed these pictures back. So about a week after I sent it out, I got it back with a Post-it. You know, here's the pictures so I know they got it. And they haven't said yes and they haven't said no. And about a month goes by and I don't hear a thing. So I called up, and I was a little taken back by, I had sent the guy a present. I had sent him a pair of hand-engraved cufflinks. Now, the secretary should have been aware enough to have written a thank you card. Thank you for the cufflinks. Instead of slapping a Post-it on the front of my pictures and sending them back. It was just poor form on her part and on his part. That was Ingrid would never let that. Ingrid got mad if the letter wasn't folded correctly before it was put in. If you misfolded the envelope, the letter, she printed out a new one. She didn't care what it cost. So I called her up. Oh, Mr. Ford hasn't decided. Yeah, well, I have. Tell him to send me back. I said, what's your fax number? I sent him back the fax. I told him he wasn't appropriate for Fifth Avenue. And I said, send me back my cufflinks. I'm repossessing your cufflinks. You repossess cars? I repossess cufflinks. Anyway, he sent me back the cufflinks with a note wishing me well, which I promptly threw in the garbage pail. Fine. So now I'm working, I let that go, but I somehow get hooked up with, and I don't remember exactly who, Cooper Union was running the software. And SDRC had been into my office, and I was looking for a few employees. And I called Cooper Union, and Cooper Union was actually bringing their students to my office so they could tour what a working design firm looked like. Which is pretty cool, and I said, if anybody's looking for a job, send your resume to me. And I wound up a month or two later hiring, probably around May, hiring the valedictorian from that year's graduating class, a girl by the name of Felicia Zussman, and a young Chinese kid. His name was Bing. I cannot pronounce his last name, but we do have, the W-2s and 1099 and all that. And they worked for me for quite a while, and they were very good, but I still had to teach them because when you come out of school, you don't know. You learn what you learn, but you don't really learn in a work environment. And they really didn't have any incidents with the ghosts, and Stacy didn't have. The only time I would see the ghosts was at night when I was there alone. Okay, so there wasn't a whole lot going on with the ghosts for 98. And the phones are ringing, and every day the phone would ring, and we'd get hang-up calls. And I think finally Stacy said it's probably Ingrid. And then Felicia sort of seconded the fact that, yeah, it could be Ingrid. Girls do that. Oh, okay, thank you very much. Boys don't do that. Do we?
Anybody can do anything.
Yeah, but guys don't do that. Not a million times. No, get out of here, bitch. I'm not wasting a quarter on you. Anyway. So we're designing jewelry. Now I get hooked up with Anthony Quinn. Anthony Quinn's making watches. And I want to carry Anthony Quinn's watches in my store. So I'm working with this guy, Henry Dene, who's a really top flight designer. I'm working with Hammerman Brothers, who's a really big company on 57th Street. And I'm working with Anthony Quinn. Now the funny thing is Anthony Quinn's people are in Toronto. And they came down to see me, and they want to work with me. And this guy Peter, who represents Anthony Quinn, he represents his art and his watches. They were very nice watches. They were takeoffs on his art. And they were actually copied. Anthony Quinn was spinning off what Picasso had done because Anthony Quinn was friends with Picasso. Okay? A bunch of old farts. So Peter comes up to meet me, and he says, can Wendy take the stairs? I said, what do you mean? She's afraid of your elevator. Now this is not the first time I've heard this. This is just the first time that somebody I'm doing business with. I had people tell me that their wives were waiting outside. Now I've got a kick-ass jewelry store, okay, that men don't want to take their wives into. So for a wife to say they don't want to come into the building is rather strange. But I've heard it on more. My wife doesn't want to come into the building. She's waiting downstairs. Really? We got jewelry. She just doesn't want to come in. She doesn't know why, she just don't want to come in. Now I never put the ghosts in, but now Wendy comes into the building. Wendy won't get in the elevator. Wendy. So now I have to go out of my door, unlock, you know, the push alarm thingies that they have on the fire stairs? I gotta shut that off. I gotta walk all the way downstairs, four floors, unlock the other one to get her in from the lobby. Then we gotta walk all the way back up. So I can't go in that elevator. So she says, I don't know, I can't go in the elevator. Okay, maybe it's the ghosts. I've never, you know, every now and then you feel the ghosts in the elevator. Felt like somebody was watching you, but you never really knew. Okay, well, Wendy knows, and obviously these other women know. Fine. What am I? We're stupid men. So, okay. So now I'm doing business with Anthony Quinn, doing business with Hammerman, I'm doing business with Dene, and had a friend of mine go down to the Home Shopping Network with some of my jewelry. And the Home Shopping Network gives me an order. Okay, and this is probably June or July. Stacy, who works for a big company out in Minneapolis, says, Frank, that's a great order. Okay, big order. Like 200,000 pieces. If I make $250 on a piece, I made $500,000. Yeah, and that's just the first order. I'm staying on Fifth Avenue for my jewelry. I get a letter. The buyer has resigned. My show was supposed to air August 6th. And the letter says that as of any orders for shows up until July 29th will be honored. My show has been canceled. My product's not going to air. My is out the window. No, $500,000. I could be paying the rent. Okay, Helen gave me $60,000 and I bought new computers and threw them in. And that's how we had this big ramp up with the computers. And that was around the beginning of the year, March. Okay. No, it was after Bing and Felicia got there. They were sharing a computer in the beginning. And after they got there and they worked out, probably around June, Helen gave me the money and I bought new computers. And we really had a kick-ass CAD operation with 3 machines running simultaneously. Okay, so I'm sitting there like, I'm directing. I got 3 jewelry designs going on at one time. My designs are pouring out. Fine, so we get our order canceled. So I said, okay, home shopping, QVC, out in Westchester. So I call QVC, and the buyer says, I don't have time to talk to you. Whoa, bitch. Yo, bitch, I'm on Fifth Avenue, you're not. I'm on page 3 of the Wall Street Journal, you're not. You don't have time, you don't even know who you're talking to. Okay, you don't have time to talk to me? Not a problem. Okay. Now it just so happens I had ended my relationship with Anthony Quinn. So I've repossessed the cufflinks from William Clay Ford. Okay? I've ended my relationship with Anthony Quinn because he was giving me grief when I went up to Toronto. And I wasn't taking grief from Anthony Quinn. I sat in a meeting with Anthony Quinn. He flies into Toronto with his wife and 2 little kids. Anthony Quinn's got 2 babies. And I know his wife, Catherine, and I know the kids, and I know Anthony Quinn, and I've been to their house in Bristol, Rhode Island, okay? And show up in Toronto, and I'm sitting there for 2 days. He doesn't have time for 2 days? I come from New York to Toronto? You don't have time for me? We're supposed to be showing the jewelry at this art opening, at this gallery opening with your work, and we're supposed to be putting the jewelry on, and you don't even look at it to approve whether we can put it out or not? What are you going to wait for? So finally, and Peter and Wendy say, and I understand, okay? Anthony Quinn's, my grandfather at 99 was a little crotchety. Okay? You got Anthony Quinn running around with 2 babies and a young wife, and he's old. Okay? And you got him on a plane, he was just out in Vegas, now you're flying him into Toronto. This guy's dragging his ass all over the kid. His wife's breastfeeding over here, the other one's crying over there. What do you expect? Anthony, Tony, I'd be on the red too. Anyway, I go into the meeting with him. Now there's his wife and the 2 kids. The 2 kids are in the meeting, Peter and Wendy, and he looks at the jewelry. And some of it, then he starts giving me grief. Whoa, 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 whoa. The jewelry's on the table. I take the jewelry. There's diamonds, there's platinum, there's gold. Okay? They're silver. He starts complaining, how could these silver cufflinks sell for $400? I'm Anthony Quinn. Nothing of mine sells for silver for $400. They cost us $20 to make. How much you going to sell them for? $400 is rape. You want more than that? They're only sterling silver. Hey, maybe if I had some of your blood on there, which if you keep it up, we're going to have some on there.
Yeah.
And he's ragging on me. So I took all the jewelry, I stood up. Now I have this leather attache. I take the attache and it was sitting on the chair next to me with the top open. And I slid it close, and I took all the jewelry that normally goes into its individual holders, and I slid all the jewelry into the bag unprotected. Things go tink, tank, diamonds are hitting platinum and gold, and the things are just falling into the bag. I stood up, and this voice comes out of my mouth that today I know was not mine. This deep, resonant voice, and all I said was, but your watches do not sell. But like 50, coming from here. And I shook his hand, and I walked out. And as I turned to walk out, there's Peter and Wendy sitting behind me. And they are cringing. Because poor Peter and Wendy are going to be stuck with him for the rest of the night. I walk out and I leave and I go back to the hotel. And Peter and Wendy call me about 2 hours later. They had to go out to dinner with him. And Mr. Quinn liked me. Mr. Quinn liked because he never ragged about. He just sat there and said, that Frank, that's all he could say. That Frank just walked out on me. Nobody ever walked out on Anthony Quinn. Nobody ever told Anthony Quinn the truth. You want to be a fucking asshole? I'll tell you you're an asshole. You know why? I work for me. I will work with you, but I don't work for you. I'm floating this boat. All the money I spent on his thing was all my money. He didn't contribute any money. This is my gig. Okay, if you were paying me, you're the client. If you're the client, I'm still telling you get the fuck out of here, because if you're doing it incorrectly and you're not going to follow my advice, I don't need the job. But when I'm paying the freight and you're going to yell at me, I don't think so. Nobody yells at me anymore. So I got Ford, who I repossessed the cufflinks. Now I got Quinn. Okay? And I got the people at Lazar Kaplan who we're trying to work out a diamond deal with, who I've walked out on a few meetings because they didn't want to see it my way. And they're a public diamond company, and they sell their shit all over the world. But they're still not me. So I wrote the letter to QVC. And I have the letters that went to QVC. And it was in probably November-ish. I think Felicia had gotten on her. Bing got fired. Bing got fired because Bing went through Stuyvesant High School and Cooper Union on scholarships and still could not speak English. And I told Bing, if you ever want to sue New York City school system or Cooper Union, I'll testify that you were incapable of speaking English. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't sit in with a customer because the customer could not understand it. This is a guy with a degree, an engineering degree from Cooper Union, and you don't speak English? Hello. Anyway, Felicia started getting wacky, which I didn't really attribute to the ghost. One day a check bounced. I gave Felicia a check. And I gave Felicia a check, and Felicia was working. Felicia was making with me, I was paying her $25 an hour. Net. Okay, so what's that, 50 grand a year? Yeah, it's $50,000 a year. That's what I was paying Felicia. Okay? And she was entry level. She was 23 years old. And I wrote Felicia a check. Now, there were two accounts in the business. One account was for the credit cards. And so all the money that came in over the credit cards had a separate account, so I could just read my credit cards and know that the right amount was being, instead of it going into another account. And then that money would be flipped over to the general corporate account. Well, I wrote her the check out of the general, and the check bounced. I had plenty of money in the other account, it just hadn't gotten flipped over. And she came in, she never called, she had my home number, and she had my cell number, and I could have had money to her. She lived in Astoria. I could have had money to her in about 15 or 20 minutes, had she picked up the phone and said, she came in, if you want me to work here, you will pay me in advance every morning. You've been working for me for like 6 months, and now you're giving me this shit? And you never gave me, and she had her money. 15 minutes after I found out the check bounced, I went right to the bank and got the money. Fine. I said, you know what? Go home. I'll call you when I need you. You can't hold me hostage. Felicia left, and I never spoke to Felicia again. Okay, she did want something from me. I said, what are you, nuts? She wanted a recommendation. I said, I'm giving you a recommendation. You held me hostage. You were going to try and hold me hostage. And now I had a lot of big customers, a lot of high-powered people. A man by the name of Dick Lord was a client of mine. He would advise on the Ingrid situation, but he was in advertising. And one of his clients, one of his employees was my client. And they knew me from the Wall Street Journal. And they bought this guy a gift. He was the president of the company. Back in the old days, there was a Charlie Chaplin commercial that IBM did. This was Dick Lord's claim to fame. Okay? It was with the IBM, I don't know which computer. And turns out Dick Lord knew my grandfather. My grandfather, who lived here, used to lay out the Journal American. And he used to place Dick's ads. Okay, my grandfather was in charge of the entire, he placed every piece of advertising where he wanted it, so that the paper could be published. Fine. So Dick knew my grandfather. And Dick's saying, you fucking genius. The stuff you got going on here is like incredible. I couldn't put together an ad campaign for you. Nobody could. Because this is your business and you're doing the advertising, because you've got the continuity. Nobody could ever do this for you. And you do it well. So Dick would advise, and so I wrote the letter to QVC. Yes, I repossessed a pair of cufflinks from William Clay Ford. And yes, I swept all the jewelry into my bag, shook hands, and walked out on Anthony Quinn. And yes, I've canceled meetings with Lazar Kaplan, but I got the contract done anyway. Doug Briggs is a big fish, and Frank McNamara is a big fish fisherman. And I proceed to go after the CEO of QVC as if he is a fish. And all those letters are sitting intact. They are hysterical. I would cast it. I'd put little niblets out for him. And not a word. He wouldn't say a word. But I'd be sensing. And then I find out, through the grapevine, he's sending somebody to my office. Really? So I said, you'll read the letters. You'll have the letters. It will be made available to you. When you cast to a big fish, and the big fish sees your fly float overhead, but the big fish is big fish, you'll just see their dorsal fin just twitch, just a little bit. You really have to have good eyes. And that was, I said, you twitch. I found out you're sending some. Anyway, so-and-so, this guy comes into the office. It was around Christmas time. And he is totally enamored by the fact that this place is haunted. He's flipping out. He wants to do the show broadcast from Fifth Avenue. He's loving it. The haunted building on Fifth Avenue, and we're going to broadcast Frank's TV show. Okay? We're doing a location thing. Oh, fine. So he leaves, and we're going to set this up in the new year. Okay. Now, Brett Hammerman has given me jewelry for my showcase. Okay? And I'm sitting, now this is still 98. This is Christmas 98. Okay? Now I'm sitting there, and I got a lot of jewelry. And the phones are still ringing, and I'm wondering about, not loving the fact that Ingrid's got the keys. No, October. Remember Karen told me I would hear from Ingrid in October. Ingrid emails me in October of 98. And Ingrid writes an email. See what you can do? Your website looks fantastic. See what you can do when you're not playing 500 rummy 8 hours a day. Okay, what do? Karen told me Ingrid's going to come bopping in. I never answered the email. First of all, she could have said, hello, Frank. Don't forget, I'm still thinking of Ingrid as a woman. I never thought of Ingrid as a girl. Frank, how are you? The website looks fantastic. Do you mind if I drop by? Is everybody okay? Oh, no, nothing. See what you can do. So I let it go. And Ingrid never came in. Okay?
We barely have 20 minutes on this tape.
Can we do another one?
Well, yeah, I mean,
So?
on a different day.
Oh, you can't do it tonight?
Oh, I gotta leave here.
What time?
6:37-ish.
What time is it now?
Here, let me stop this.
It's 6:05.
If we can find a way
I'll get.
to connect the relevance of business deals that you've done with
If I don't stay in business, I don't stay long enough
Okay.
to get the trust of the ghost. And the coincidences of me staying in business are so weird that it's almost like I've been set up to succeed to certain points and then fail at the last second, because I can't make money with the business no matter how good I am. It's almost like this guy is great and the fucking cards are stacked against him. At the last minute, everything falls
that's
apart.
an objective thing. That's something that we need to make clear.
Right. Now, okay. So now, I got this deal. They're coming to see me from QVC, okay? The deal from Home Shopping Network fell apart. The deal with Anthony Quinn fell apart. I got rid of Felicia, I got rid of Bing. I'm back there all alone. I got jewelry sitting in the showcase. From Hammerman. Guy comes walking in, looks at the earrings and says, "Are those Henry Denay's earrings?" "No, those are from Hammerman." "Oh, they look just like," "Yes, they're a copy of Henry Denay." "How do you know Henry Denay?" "Oh, that's my wife's favorite designer." Rips open his coat, shows me a $40,000 platinum and pink gold belt buckle. Henry Denay's a friend of mine. His wife comes over. I take them to meet Henry Denay. They buy a $187,000 piece of jewelry from me. I put $60,000 in the bank, and I get to continue for another year. I throw some money to the landlord. I threw some money to the landlord when my wife gave me $60,000. I threw some more money to the landlord now, so out of this $60,000, and now I bought myself another year. Okay? And the significance of those earrings? Brett Hammerman's father fucked Henry Denay and copied all of his merchandise when they worked together as partners. And now Henry's selling the biggest piece he ever sold off of a mistake because I had somebody else's earrings in there. It was just so fun. It was so comical to have Brett Hammerman cause Henry to make one of his biggest sales. They would have never known I knew Henry if it wasn't for that fact. Fine, so now they want to do the jewelry show. Okay, so now we go through, and again, now I go down, and this guy John Calnan from QVC, he starts to tell me how I'm going to do what he wants. I said, "What are you, nuts?" I told Doug Briggs, you want to override Doug, you want to override John, fine. Otherwise, forget it. I'm out. I don't need this. You don't tell me how to design my jewelry. Okay? Fine. So anyway, you'll have the correspondence on that. So now, heard from Ingrid in October, never responded to Ingrid. Now, the phone's still ringing off the hook. Now I got this guy comes in to work for me. He's a mechanical engineer, Frank LaRocca, nice guy, okay. And we're working together, and he's doing my designs, and we're still keeping the business running. And, and he gets to hear, the kids, Bing and Felicia, never heard all about Ingrid. They knew Ingrid built the store. But Frank is like a young guy, like I would talk to you about Ingrid. What's going on here? Okay, can you understand this fucking woman? I can't. Stacy's telling me, yeah, that's Ingrid calling, but Frank's answering the phone, he's getting hung up on. Anyway, comes, shut that a second, please. I gotta keep your interest. Fine, you're tired of business. Okay.
But
now,
if I am...
Relax, we go. Now, all of a sudden, Pamela Henry, who I haven't spoken to in about a year and a half, comes to the office. And Pamela's just looking around. She needs a pair of earrings. And Pamela's not really speaking to me. We're not talking about fishing. We're not talking about... It looks like there's something on Pamela's mind. But Pamela doesn't want to bring it up. And honestly, I can't even discuss Ingrid. Because if I discuss Ingrid with Pamela, I'm probably going to cry. Fine, so Pamela leaves. Pamela comes back again about a week later. And again, Pamela's in the store. And Pamela's not... And I even go and offer Pamela a pair of ear for free. I said, look, I wouldn't be on Fifth Avenue if it wasn't for you. Why don't you take these? I'm giving them to you. No, that's okay, thank you. And Pamela leaves. Now, a few days later, this guy comes to the door. Now, I can sense. I'd be there was sometimes I'd take the freaking binoculars and I'd look out the window because I had a feeling Ingrid was outside. And it was really, when you build a place on Fifth Avenue for somebody, don't tell me out of curiosity you don't want to see how it's going. It's just human nature to go back to something and see how they're doing. It's not like you're an old employee, you signed the freaking checks. It's not like you're an ex-partner, you chose to leave and you are dearly missed. Fine. Okay, maybe, now one of the reasons I never ever beat Ingrid was very simple. And I would constantly tell myself whenever I missed Ingrid, this is your business, you're a big boy, and you built it, and you run it. If you can't run it without Ingrid, you shouldn't have it. You're the brains. And I continued, and that's why I continued to work. Fine. So Pamela comes, now this guy comes walking to the door. And this guy comes to the door, and I happen to be going to the bathroom, which is right now near the glass door. So I click him in, and he's standing, a young guy, tall kid, blonde hair. Are you Frank? Are you Frank? Ingrid Staus told me I had to come here and see Frank. Are you Frank? Now, here I am, Ingrid Staus. Yeah, she's working over at MTB. We're a few blocks away. She told me you had a fly fishing shop. I'm nodding my head, yes, I'm fine. I said, go in. And I had to step into the bathroom. I just slid into the bathroom door. I had to actually catch my fucking breath. Because I never, now I come out of the bathroom, and I was only in there just to get my composure. And I proceeded to talk to this guy for about 45 minutes, never once mentioning Ingrid. Fine, he leaves, okay? Ingrid, no wonder I'm feeling her. No wonder I know she's close. No wonder I feel like I'm getting spied on. And no wonder when Ingrid used to call up, you would hear the phone go click, okay? But recently, the phone wasn't going click anymore. It was more a hang-up where, you know when you're sitting on a multiple lined telephone and you have one line lit and you just press the other button and you get cut off on the first line? So it's not a click hang-up, it's just a shutdown. The hang-up had changed, but it was a consistent, now the new hang-up was the new hang-up. So she must have been calling from Hunter College when she went to college from a payphone, and now she's calling from a multiple line phone at MTV. You would know better than me. Okay? Fine. Somebody comes in and leaves the New York Post on the desk, on the showcase. And the horoscope says, for Aquarius, somebody you want to speak to wants to hear from you today. Do you have anything better to do? Another coincidence? Pamela Henry, guy comes in, MTV, Ingrid's a couple of blocks away. Now I got the horoscope. What do you write to someone you haven't seen in 2 years? So I wrote Ingrid an email, and all it said was, and it was perfectly spaced, you know how you can space it out and you'd center something on the page? And all I wrote in the same script that we engraved all the fly boxes was, I miss your smile. And that was the entire email. And I send the email, and it's about 6 o'clock at night. And I leave. I close up the store and I leave. I come in the next morning. There's an email from Ingrid. She wrote the email about 10 minutes after she got mine. I don't know where she was. She was probably at her apartment. She gets my email and she responds immediately. And she admits to looking at the website. Okay, and she starts asking me about Ira, and she starts asking me about the Wheatley boxes. And I'm like, I said, holy shit. Ingrid is asking me about all the things that were going on 2 years later, 2 years ago, when she left. She remembers these things like it was yesterday. Because I had to actually go, oh man. You know, it's a little insightful. So now some emails go back and forth between Ingrid and I, and when can I see you? When are you coming? You know, would you come in, please? Now, and also I need to know about the keys. But I don't want her piece of shit boyfriend knowing she's got the keys. Because I don't like this guy. And now I'm starting to get a lot of jewelry in my store. Lazar Kaplan's giving me diamonds. Henry Dene. All these people are piling up. I got a couple of $1 million worth of jewelry in my store. Fine. All of a sudden, the email stops. Not a freaking word from Ingrid. Nothing. Fuck. So now I have to go to Providence, Rhode Island. So I drive up to Providence. Frank's working in the office. And on the way back, I was looking for this company that I do business with. And I mistakenly passed their exit. And I get off the Parkway, off the New York State, New England Thruway. And I stop for directions. And it turns out I passed them by about 15 miles and the traffic going in both. So I said, let's see, I look at, and there's this red line. This red line's going straight across the state of Connecticut, right past Candlewood Lake. So it's like somebody drew this line on the map for me, and I have the map. So I pick up the phone and I call Frank in the office. I said, get in the database and get me Hartmut Strauss's phone number and address. Because Ingrid had put his name, he bought something, and she, being the fastidious little German, entered her father into our database along with everybody else. And the funny thing is I had spoken to her father in 97 because I needed to send Ingrid a 1099. And when I put my hand into my file full of resumes, she had stolen her resume. There was no place for me to get in touch with Ingrid except to call her father. And he gave me her social security number so I could send her a 1099. And I sent it to him. Fine. So I call him. No, I drive to his development. And they're at Candlewood. It's not an easy place to get to. And I stop at a gas station, and the guy's a plumber. He's either a plumber or an electrician. He's an electrician. He says, I'm going there. Follow me. So I follow him to the gatehouse. Go to the gatehouse. I said, I want to speak to... And they call him on the phone. And so I go down. And it just so happens, he just walked in. He's only going to be home for about a half an hour, but he's got time to talk. His wife is out of town. Ingrid's in New York. And I said, look, I don't know if I don't know if you know what's going on, but I'm in love with your daughter, and I suspect she's in love with me. And he says, Ingrid mentioned she had heard from you the last time she was here, but she didn't say anything more than that. Now, I know the mother knows that I kissed her, but I know the father knows nothing, because women keep everything from the freaking father. So if you have a daughter and a wife, you're going to be in the dark all your life. Anyway, so now we go in the backyard, and we're sitting on the patio, and I'm saying, you know, this is, I kissed your daughter, we're going through the whole thing. I'm telling him how wonderful his daughter is, and, you know, I would really like to speak to her. And I'd really like to, you know, but if the only way I can see your daughter is to marry her, then I'm asking your permission to marry her. Now, here's this man who's about 7 years older than me, and he's sitting there, and he's pinching himself, and he's saying, you know, I can't believe what I'm hearing. And he's sitting there pinching himself. He's smoking a cigar and pinching himself. I'm smoking a cigarette. He's got the sun is blasting me, just like it was blasting me today. Okay, like I'm in the hot seat. And he says, look, I've got to go. He got a phone call because he's got to go out to dinner with some of the guys. And he says, I will tell Ingrid you were here. I can't answer for her. He said, but aren't you married? I said, yeah, but, you know, this is not going away. This is not going away. And look, you know, Ingrid still has the keys for the store. But I can't ask Ingrid for the keys because I don't want Ariel to know that she has them. Oh, what I forgot to tell you is, Hartmut told me while we were talking, Ingrid had moved out on Ariel in October of '98. They had an apartment in Manhattan, Ingrid's parents, from October '98 to October through '99. And Ingrid had moved in there, and she had just recently moved back with Ariel. So basically, Ingrid emailed me exactly when she moved out on Ariel. And for 1 year, she lived with her parents, but I didn't contact her. Otherwise, Ingrid and I would have been together in October of '98 when she walked out on Ariel. But now she's back with him, and the father goes...
What do you mean, you would have left your wife?
I don't know. Doesn't matter. It's not...
Well, you say it with such conviction. We would have been together.
It doesn't matter. What are you? I'm incriminating myself here.
No.
Do I look stupid?
It's a character question.
Is it a? Well, I didn't have to face that, did I? No, I didn't have to face that. It would have been a tough decision. It would have been a very tough decision. It would have been a tough decision, but I wasn't ready. I didn't respond to Ingrid's email. So I guess the answer to your character question is I was not fawning over Ingrid enough to answer any fucking thing she threw my way. Had Ingrid come in the door and had the guts to come in the door, maybe I would have had the guts to leave my wife. But if you just want to flip me an email like I flipped somebody the bird, then I'm not running after you, bitch. Okay? Does that answer your character question? Fine, thank you. Now, Ingrid's father. Now I tell him, I don't want Ariel to know Ingrid has the keys. And the father's response is, I will never understand that relationship. Exactly. same head and facial gestures that Ingrid made when she said we were wrestling. Okay? That is what that head movement and Ingrid's head movement must be synchronized, because they are genetically the same and they were synchronized. At which point is dead silence from Ingrid. There's nothing, not another word from Ingrid. Okay, fine. Now we have Betty. Betty, who would come in every morning for breakfast. Okay? And Betty worked with Ingrid when we had the store on 47th Street. And Betty would ask, have you heard from Ingrid? Have you heard from Ingrid? Have you heard from Ingrid? Well, I wake up in the middle of the night, after I've done this whole thing. No, I did get an email from Ingrid. Ingrid emails me. The father tells her that I asked to marry her. And I don't hear a word. I don't hear a word. Except all I can hear in Connecticut is, and I'm hearing this clear as day, you idiot, don't you know she's in love with him? The mother's yelling at the father. Because the father didn't have a clue about it. And I didn't offer, I brought her a pair of earrings from the Lazar Kaplan collection that I had just made. And that's all I was giving her. It wasn't an engagement ring. It was just a pair of earrings, a pair of diamond studs. Okay, fine. And I don't hear a word from Ingrid. Finally, I get an email from Ingrid, maybe 3 or 4 days later. I just asked your father if you could marry me. Okay? You're Ingrid Staus. You're the tough little girl that put me on 5th Avenue. And I don't hear a word. And I ask you back ask the keys back, and nothing at all. The Ingrid Staus I know would have either taken those keys and shoved them so far up my ass that they came out my mouth, or she sends me this letter, which is like complete garbled. It was, I didn't understand what it said. Like she was yelling at me. But never once in the emails did she say, no, I'm not going to marry you, asshole. Okay? And then, a half an hour later, she sends me another email apologizing for the first email of yelling at me. I'm sorry I said what I said. I could have been nicer. No, no, no. If I embarrassed you that much, and I'm ruining your relationship, then, duh, you don't apologize. You just say, take a hike, and your keys are in the mail. No, never got that. Fine. Now, I wake up. Now, don't forget, I still got the ghosts. All this time, okay, the ghosts are watching what's going on, and I'm talking to the ghosts. I'm telling the ghosts, come on, let's do this, let's go. Come on, guys, we got to get you out of here. Don't you think 30 years is a little bit too, don't you think 40 years is a little bit too long to stay for dinner? I thought they died in a fire in the basement. Because people, oh, we forgot a part. Very important part. Back in 98, my Ingrid,
You got 50 seconds.
forget it.